and welcome back to Going Live with Global Learning. I'm Tia, and today I'm here with the Dean of Global Learning, Dr. Don Wood.
Yay!
Yeah, so thank you so much for joining our podcast today.
Thank you.
We'll just start off a little bit kind of like to hear kind of your story and what, what first started your interest in exploring the world.
Sounds good. I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah, me too.
So, how did I get started wanting to explore the world? That's your question, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing because I grew up on a farm in Iowa, in western Iowa, in Carroll County, Iowa. I was the oldest of three kids, and I always feel so fortunate that I was lucky to have that upbringing and to have the opportunity to just kind of, live in nature, be outdoors all the time, and just have an amazing childhood with my grandparents living right next door to me, my cousins all around, extended family, and all of that. And I never really thought about going anywhere, growing up. It was just kind of the natural thing. Like my parents, we never took a vacation, but I never really thought that was odd. My grandparents had never left the state of Iowa except for my grandfather, who was a veteran of World War II. He lived to be 102.
Oh, wow.
So that upbringing, was very rooted. And I feel fortunate that I had that kind of really strong roots in Iowa, growing up in Iowa on a farm. And then once going through education, I always loved school. So I always loved to learn. I read the encyclopedia when I was growing up. Now I'm mentioning my age. If you don't know what an encyclopedia is, it's kind of like the internet. I read the encyclopedia like from beginning to end, and I always got excited when the yearbook came around so I could update myself. And I just loved school because I think I'm a people person. I love to talk to people. I love to learn about people who are different than me. And as I got into high school, I got to be friends with foreign exchange students who came from other countries. I tended to do projects that were related to other countries. And then when I got the opportunity to go to college, which I'm a first-generation student, my parents didn't go to college. My cousin was the first in our extended family to go to college 1 year before me because she's 1 year older than me. And so I went to college. I got a scholarship to go to the University of Northern Iowa. And so I went there. And I didn't know a lot about college or what to do, but I knew I loved learning, so I had to go. And when I got to UNI, I realized there was this bigger group of people that I could get to know, that I could become friends with. I liked interacting with the international students, kind of like the foreign exchange students that I got to be friends with in high school. And I learned about all the opportunities that were available. And the first thing I learned about was this thing called a national student exchange, which allowed one of my friend's sisters had done it. And so I thought, I could do that. And then I could go to a different college or university in the United States. So I chose to go to New Mexico State University. And I drove there. So it was for me definitely in my first what I call out of Iowa experience. I mean, I hadn't really traveled outside of Iowa before that. And I was 19. And I drove to New Mexico with another student from UNI who was going there in my car.
Wow.
And New Mexico State University is a border region university. It's very close to El Paso, Texas, the Rio Grande River. And it's like being in a different country, especially for somebody who had never really been anywhere before. So that was just so eye-opening. I made some of the best friends of my life there. And from that point on, it was like, I need to just keep doing this. It's like I just caught the bug. So I got back to UNI after that semester and was like, where can I go next? And one of my professors came up to me and said, you would be a great candidate for this Denmark study abroad. And I was like, yes, I want to do that. And it was a scholarship opportunity too, because, I didn't have a lot of money. And so I was like, yeah, I'm going to go. So that was my first time on an airplane. When I left Iowa, we actually drove to Minneapolis. My parents drove me there, which was, again, another state I got to go to. We got on the plane and I flew to Denmark. So I think we stopped in St. Louis or something, and then the rest of the way to Denmark. And it was just an amazing experience to get on a plane, for 10 hours and go to Denmark and study abroad at the University of Aalborg in the north of Denmark. For about a year I was there. I came when it was winter time and I left the next year, and it was just an amazing experience. Again, I met some of the best friends in my life who I still keep in touch with. I was able to join a graduate business study abroad course for graduate students, for students who were studying like MBA. And they invited international students who spoke English to come there because all the classes are in English. But I also got to learn how to speak Danish. And I had been learning how to speak German at the University of Northern Iowa too. So learning Danish was really fun. And I had my own apartment in Denmark above this wonderful bakery, the oldest bakery in all of Aalborg. And so every morning I would wake up with my window open and the wafting smell of fresh bread would come in. And it was just from there on that I knew I just wanted to explore as much as I possibly could. And the real joy of it for me was meeting people and talking to them about their different perspectives. So I really enjoyed that. Yeah, that's how it all got started.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So you've been, how many places have you been to? So we'll start there. How many places have you been?
Yeah, a lot. I think I told you, I haven't counted the countries. One time I tried to count the countries, and I used this app on the internet to try to do it, but somehow I lost it, and I don't remember how many countries. But I have traveled to all of the continents except for Antarctica. As of the last 5 years ago or something, when I finally got to visit Africa. I went to South Africa, and I've been to Ghana last year too. I've been in Asia all over, Vietnam, Singapore, China, Japan, Korea, Indonesia, a lot of wonderful places in Asia, and then all over Europe, because when I studied abroad in Denmark, I also traveled by myself from the north of Denmark all the way to Greece.
Wow.
I met by myself.
Oh my goodness.
I met some friends of mine from University of Northern Iowa who were living in Austria, in Klagenfurt, Austria. So I went to a lot of countries in Europe. And then I've also been to Brazil and Mexico, Costa Rica. I've had so many great opportunities through my work that I do with international education. That's a lot of the travel that I've done. And then also some personal travel. Yeah, I lived, so after I graduated from college, I also moved to Czech Republic and taught English there. So I've lived in Denmark and I've lived in Czech Republic. Now, when I lived in Czech Republic, I was teaching English, so I didn't make a lot of money, so I didn't get a chance to travel as much as I would have liked. And I was very busy teaching English, very busy, so I didn't have a lot of time either. But I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed living in Czech Republic.
That's awesome. How long were you living there and teaching English?
I lived there for almost a year. It was 1992 to 93. And that was the time when when I arrived there, it was Czechoslovakia. And then when I left, it was two countries, so the Czech Republic and Slovakia. Literally, after I was there 4 weeks, the two countries split, amicably. It was like a very nice split. But I had to go to the bank with all my Czechoslovakian money, which wasn't very much, and change it to Czech money, because they changed from Czechoslovakia to Czech Republic.
How was that transition for you? Like, you're teaching English in this new country, and then while you're there, the country split into two countries. Yeah,
it was it was so weird because I thought it would be a big deal, but it wasn't. It wasn't a big deal. Really? They wanted to split, so they split, and they seemed to have it figured out how they were going to do it, and it all happened kind of silently. Not a lot changed. Besides, that's why I only remember the money, because nothing else really changed that I recall. Yeah.
Wow, that's so interesting.
Yeah.
Did any of the countries that you visited, which one had the biggest impact for you?
Yeah, the biggest impact, probably those two countries, Denmark and Czech Republic, because I got the opportunity to live there. I lived by myself both times, had to find an apartment, had to get used to buying groceries there and meeting people and just being part of the society. So when you're somewhere, when I have been able to have that kind of extended stay, it makes a bigger impact, I think. A lot of the other countries that I've been to have been for short-term visits for work, which they've also impacted me. Like visiting Japan was just amazing to me, especially the first time. I've been there several times, fortunately, but it's so different than the United States in so many different ways, and the way they conduct business and the way they conduct meetings, which is a lot of what I got to observe, but also just societal things that they do. The colors, the smells, the way it feels to be there. I've enjoyed all of those things.
Yeah. Awesome. And that's
Yeah.
so cool, you've been able to be like all over the place and like meet so many different people. When you were living in like Denmark, in the Czech Republic, did you face a lot of like culture shock, especially that first time in Denmark? Like, how was that? Like,
Yeah.
even the languages, I don't really know what they speak in like some of these countries.
Yeah, yeah. In Denmark, definitely at the time, now if you go to Denmark, basically everybody speaks English. I mean, I would say 99% because I have been back to visit a couple times. But at the time when I was there, which was like 1990, not everybody spoke English. So it was a culture shock. And some of the like labels in the grocery store, you can tell what things are when you're buying things.
Oh.
Like one time, I remember one of the first times I went to the grocery store. And at that time also we didn't have the internet. So you had to have like a phrase book with you to translate things. And I just had like a little phrase book. And I would go to one time I went to the grocery store and I wanted to buy something to make for dinner. And it was the first time I was going to try to buy like meat, which I don't eat a lot of meat, but I wanted to try to make something. So I bought what I thought was ground beef or something, but then I tried to find it in my book, couldn't find it. So I got home and I looked again at the words and it said horse meat. I was like, oh, yeah, I'm not going to eat that.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that was something they would have in the grocery store. And then that's very frustrating because like, well, now what am I going to have for dinner? I guess I'll run down to the train station and get, some fast food.
Wow. That's so interesting.
But it's those like, just basic things that you have to do, like how to get on the bus. I had to find a bike because everybody in Denmark rides a bike. And unless you want to ride the bus, which can get expensive. And I had to ride it. So I needed to find a bike and then I need to get used to riding my bike all the way to the university, which was a couple of miles away up a slight hill because it's not super mountainous in Denmark.
Oh my goodness.
But there's a lot of people riding bikes in Denmark. So you're like shoulder to shoulder with people.
Oh, wow.
They've got bike lanes. And so all of that, like adapting to that. And it rains a lot in Denmark. So you have to have rain gear.
Wow.
When you're riding your bike up the hill.
Oh my goodness. And in the winter too.
Yeah.
That's cold.
Yeah. It got cold there. Yeah. Not as cold as Iowa, but definitely down to freezing or something close to it. Yeah.
Wow. Oh,
Yeah.
so interesting.
Yeah.
But you learned a lot. I'm sure you learned a lot from that experience, even like your own personal growth too, like with that.
Yeah. And it takes time to make friends.
Yeah,
A big part of our learning there and studying abroad was a group project that we had to do. And so getting to know, and it was multicultural team. So our team had a German person on it, a person from Bangladesh, me, and then 3 or 4 Danish students. So yeah, you learn a lot about yourself through those type of experiences.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there a particular experience abroad that changed how you view education and connection across cultures?
Yeah, I think all of them, because I've had so many opportunities for education to go visit universities or colleges overseas, and also strong partnerships with other universities and colleges. Like here at Kirkwood, we have the partnership with Singapore, Canada, Australia, and Kirkwood. And each of those institutions is very similar in terms of what they're training students to do. It's workforce training, technical and vocational education, but also very different. So you can't make any assumptions. Like when we sit down to have our meetings and compare how we do education, one country might call a class or a program, but it means something totally different, even though it's in English.
Interesting.
So I think what I've learned is it's important not to make assumptions when you're going into any kind of conversational about comparative educational structures, or if you're going to build a partnership with somebody in another country. You need to start from the basics, get to know the people, and then also get to know their educational system by asking questions and hopefully having the opportunity to observe, because observation is the best tool to learn about another culture.
Yeah. That's really great. Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
In your own personal view, what makes international exchange such an important part of a student's education and growth?
Yeah, I'm so passionate about that. Like, I really believe that an education is not an education if it doesn't have some kind of global experience attached to it. Because if we can't jump outside of what we're doing and view ourselves from another perspective, how can we know what we're really doing? You know, like, we can sit inside of our bubble and do what we do, but unless we can jump outside that bubble and view ourselves back in, then it's not really education. So if a student, whether they're studying welding or agriculture or history or arts, isn't able to do that, then how are they going to learn? You know, because it's really about, that's what learning is about. It's about absorbing something new, and not just about yourself, but about the world. So I really believe that every student, regardless of what they're studying, should have the opportunity to have an intercultural experience. It doesn't necessarily have to be traveling. It could be having an international student in their class, or having an opportunity to connect with another group of students in another country. And I've seen it happen so many times that I know the transformative change that can bring about in somebody. And not that they're changing who they are, but they're seeing who they are for the first time.
Wow.
Like, I teach a course called Global Business Skills at Kirkwood. And one of the most important learning outcomes is that we can understand our own culture in order to learn about other cultures. So sometimes some of my students in my class, and I would say this was probably me too when I was before I had the opportunity to have all these experiences, I've heard them answer to me when I ask them to talk about their own culture, that they don't really think they have a culture. Or they say, oh, well, I'm just from Iowa. And I'm like, hold on, Iowa has a great culture.
Yeah.
And you have a great culture. And so I love seeing that light come on, like, oh yeah, you're right. Like, you know, having Jell-O salad at my family reunion is part of my culture. You know? Yes, that's so important. Like, every little thing is part of who you are. And I think if people experience more self-awareness by talking about that, they can do better things in their lives and make better lives for themselves.
Wow. Yeah, I think that's such an important thing that you said. Like, yeah, understanding, like part of learning, right? You're learning something you don't know. And that's, you know, part of the, especially with the international exchange, you're meeting people from so many different cultures and backgrounds. And even like you're saying, like stepping out of out of your bubble to even view yourself and learn more about yourself too, like how we can grow together and help each other, you know, and understand people with their differences. And that's amazing. It's not a bad thing to be different than people. I think that's awesome. We can celebrate that and learn from each other. Yeah,
it's great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then my last question for you is, why do you believe it's important for colleges, especially community colleges, to prioritize global learning opportunities? I know you kind of mentioned that a little bit, but anything else you'd like to say on that?
Yeah. Well, I think it's a matter of, you know, access and opportunity. Like, I mentioned opportunity a lot and how privileged I feel that I had those opportunities. And that we're able to provide those here at Kirkwood. Like, Kirkwood is known for providing a lot of global learning experiences. You know, I've been here over 15 years, but even before I was here, that's been kind of a hallmark of what Kirkwood is. But for the majority of the United States community colleges, you know, only like 30% of U.S. community colleges even offer study abroad as an option, or virtual exchange, or host international students. And that's just not fair. It's not fair, because if you're going to community college, you should have the same type of opportunities that students have when they go to a 4-year university.
Yeah, it's true.
And they should have the opportunity to have the same quality of education that happens for students who are going to other places. So I think it's just the right thing to do. And I think prioritizing it is important, because if you don't, it's not going to happen on its own. It has to be intentional, or it's natural for us to sink back into our bubbles, right? Instead of reaching out,
right,
and looking elsewhere to peer back in. And community colleges are where, you know, 42% of all U.S. American undergraduates attend a community college.
Wow, that's a lot.
So if we want our country to be better, and we want our communities to be better, and our local workforce to have more opportunities and to be more competitive, we have to take that extra intentional step to improve our communities and improve our country.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. That is, so fascinating. I'm learning a lot through this podcast, from
thank
you.
you.
It's so great.
Thank you. I'm talking a lot.
No, it's so great to hear your story and your experience, and even just like you're saying, the importance of having an open mind to learn. Because we can't learn if we're stuck in our bubble. And you said a lot of great things, and I appreciate hearing your story and and your values and what drives you to do what you do, because you're awesome. So
So are you.
And thank you everyone for watching this episode. If you'd like to see the rest of our episodes, you can find them on our YouTube channel, Going Live with Global Learning. Thanks everyone.